Hello, beautiful, wonderful soul. Welcome back to Glowed Up and Woke. I am here talking about the neuroscience and the physics behind intuition. Now, it's gonna be a few part video, I think, because there is a lot to cover, and I want to just dive right in. So, the first thing I want to talk about, the foundation for understanding a scientific model and all the physics that go into how things like intuition, clairvoyance, telepathy, and other kinds of new agey or religious based concepts are actually based on real science and real physics that we just didn't have the language for as a human species 2,000 years ago, when the seers and the saints were being shown the physics of reality via nature, inspiration, the muse, however it came to them. They were able to receive this information, but they couldn't scientifically demonstrate it. So they created a lot of parables and archetypes and all these other techniques of their times in order to express and convey these ideas. Now we have actual empirical proof to back up all these concepts. So the first one is or theory of consciousness, which is a theory of consciousness which states that consciousness is not being generated by the brain. It's not privy to us alone. We're not the only ones who have consciousness, and it's not simply generated by complex computations in the brain which nobody understands. That's basically what science has been saying up until now. They call it the hard problem because they simply have no idea how, if there's no such thing as consciousness in the universe, then how are we conscious, right? That's Rupert Sheldrake puts forward that question. Is a very great point. So what Stuart Hameroff and Sir Roger Penrose, who was the mechanical quantum physicist that worked with Stephen Hawking, and he's responsible for theories such as dark matter, they've been able to demonstrate a model in which consciousness resides in the very fabric of space-time, in the space-time continuum. The space-time continuum is made of a tiling fabric, according to the physics of Roger Penrose. And in it, intrinsic to it, is a resonance. It's a kind of consciousness which is non-individualized, non-personalized consciousness. They call it proto-consciousness, which, again, I've made a video about this before, but this proto-consciousness can be very much likened to the Vedic concept of pure, undifferentiated consciousness from which all natural phenomena arise and to which all phenomena eventually return. Which is to say, we all come from one source. We're all existing in that same isness, that same stuff of the universe. There's just that one stuff, and that is consciousness or information, however, it's consciousness. And it's in every molecule, everywhere in space. There is no such thing as a vacuum. That's another new thing. There's no such thing as a vacuum in space. Every single ounce, every little tiny space has information. It's filled with consciousness, which is a form of information, all the way from the Planck scale, and then it increases through different orders of magnitude all the way to the level of our biology. And now here we go, another major concept for understanding intuition is that this consciousness and the information therein resides in all space, and it's picked up very much like an antenna by the microtubules in the brain. The consciousness is, according to Or theory, is the pure consciousness, which hasn't been shaped or labeled or collapsed into a specific objective reality. Or stands for orchestrated objection reduction. The way that your brain orchestrates the objection reduction of the quantum potential and possibilities of the proto-consciousness, which is in the Planck scale geometry of the universe, is via the microtubules, which are able to perform quantum computations in the brain. Now, having said that, we have a mechanism to receive and pick up information that is coming from non-local sources. And that's going to be the first part of understanding how intuition is picked up by, how the brain is able to pick up information intuitively. Now, another very important concept is that there is the concept of the right and left brain hemispheres, which are able to, in their own way, they each have different functions in the body. And as we go upstairs, we're able to get a better perspective. So here, I'm going to continue and talk about the right side of the brain, which is very important because the right side of the brain is actually the portion of the brain that's able to extend and generate a field antenna. A field antenna is basically the kind of antenna that almost every service uses in our technology. Field, it's basically your body is creating an electromagnetic field. Your brain itself is creating an electromagnetic field. And we know that to be true. That's not a new age concept. Your heart is producing another electromagnetic field, which we also are able to measure. Now, when these come into coherence, then the system is able to generate a greater field, which produces an antenna, a field antenna, and then it's able to tap into information beyond what the left brain information has. The left brain is the part that has the storing of all the programs and runs the programs. And so the left brain is really operating based on information that has already been acquired and sort of analyzing that information and analyzing stuff around it and determining whether something is either a threat or an opportunity or neutral. Whereas the right brain is actually able to receive and perceive the reality directly at the level of the field, at the level of the quantum, which is basically where the information hasn't been adulterated, it hasn't been labeled, it hasn't been interpreted, it hasn't been basically changed by any kind of bias that might be in the left brain. The left brain has biases because it's perceiving everything through the filter of the past, all the past programmings, because it's attempting to figure things out on its own. It's very survival based, whereas the right side of the brain, the right hemisphere, is able to connect to the heart, and then through the heart, generating a field. And again, this sounds new agey because I'm saying the brain connects to the heart, but no, this is actual science. The HeartMath Institute has done extensive empirical evidence-based work to demonstrate these concepts. And I would just invite you to research some of the theories that they do, and also, again, check out my or theory of consciousness video. And Rupert Sheldrake, his theory comes next in this whole thing, because he has a theory called the extended theory of mind, which is very important for changing the way that we conceive of our perception of reality, the way that when we see something, like you ever notice when you look at someone, you're looking at them at the back of their head, they tend to turn around. It's almost like they can feel it. They can feel that you're looking at them because something is being extended, and you're actually, when you put your attention on something, you're actually sort of touching it with your mind. And that's a fascinating concept, that there's a resonance and what he calls morphic fields that actually interact at a non-local, like without having to physically touch, you're actually interacting, connecting, and exchanging information with those things that you put your attention on. So I hope this was great and wonderful for you. I hope that the information was revelatory, because when we're in a state where we're not so much trying to analyze, then the left brain is not dominating anymore in the brain. This allows the right brain to activate the antenna, and it allows for coherence between the left and right hemisphere and also the heart. When there is that coherence between left, right hemisphere, and heart, we are able to access the quantum wide web of information which exists in the proto-consciousness in the space-time geometry of space. So it's really a real again, scientifically demonstrable mechanism and phenomena. I hope that we can all appreciate the new information that is being put forth by these amazing scientists and that we don't take it for granted. I also want to mention Bruce Lipton's work. He explains how all the cells in the body basically work like microchips of a computer, and they're made up of crystalline structures that are able to transceive information. They can receive and give information. So that's Bruce Lipton's work, and I'll talk about it in the next video. We'll also cover how your skin and your body, well, your skin is a membrane. It's a semi-permeable membrane, not a shell. It's not separating you. You're never separate. People think that they end wherever their skin ends and then the rest of the world begins. But really, this is just a membrane that's constantly receiving and giving information. And then it's made up of crystalline structures which give and receive not just chemical or smells and sounds and sensory information, but energetic information that comes to us via like invisible forces that we don't fully understand yet, but some of them are morphogenetic fields, and some of them we do understand, such as gravity, electromagnetism, other people's heart, that bioelectromagnetism from other people's hearts, and the energetic signatures of their emotions. We're able to pick up on that through these fields and through the body-mind as an antenna. Again, Bruce Lipton, HeartMath Institute, Rupert, Sheldrake, and Stuart Hameroff. I hope this was very helpful for you, and I will make the next video soon. Many blessings. Sanam.